Good evening, everybody. I'm a little bit early today just because, well, quite frankly, it was a more convenient time for me to do the video today, about 6:30 rather than 9 o'clock at night when I normally do it. So I'm just coming at you guys with some news, some updates of the day, some big things going on. Of course, as always, if you'd like to support, please share our video. Hit the share button right now. Just share, post it to your timeline. Share us out there. Come by the shop. Check out our coffee. It's really great. Buy it online, brewedco.com. You can donate.brewedco.com, brewedco.com. Share it out there. Spread the word. Ask people to like us. Do that kind of stuff. I don't know. Just support us if you want to support us. If you don't, you just want to listen to my soothing voice, thank you for that compliment. So, I've got a couple things I want to cover today. One, been getting a lot of reports about local health departments in Lexington and Louisville are starting to push back pretty hardcore. We also have the governor coming out saying he's not going to set any goals. We have a unemployment director who unfortunately it appears has killed himself. We have some action items for you guys. We have a new lawsuit. It's been filed by a bar and restaurant. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Once again, I'm not a lawyer, but I have some legal analysis for you guys on that. And then, of course, Trump and GOP getting into a little fight here, and I find it very interesting. So first off here, let's talk about these local health departments starting to push back and kind of starting to really fight with us. So there's definitely been a movement overall of places not, quote unquote, following the mandates, right? I think we are looking at the numbers. We're looking at the things like what I'm going to talk about next about the governor saying he's not going to set any goalposts. And we're all just had enough of it, right? We're looking around. We're saying the numbers are dropping. People at risk can get vaccinated if they want to get vaccinated. There's just not really a good reason to keep going. It's very clear that the government doesn't want to put, at least the Kentucky state government, doesn't want to put a light at the end of this tunnel. So you're seeing a lot of bars and restaurants like ours starting to push back. And what you're seeing is these local health departments are starting to definitely get into it a lot more. I've got reports from some bars and restaurants that this entire time haven't been bothered, and then suddenly a health department person walks in and tells them, oh, you got people sitting at your bar, you got to back away. I had a bar here, this bar I go to all the time over near where I live, that is pretty chill. I'm not going to tell you guys the bar, but it's a pretty chill bar. I like it. I enjoy the place. Cheap food, cheap drinks, right? All the things you want to see in a good bar. And they had the health department come in and tell them that, so it is a regulation here in Kentucky that you aren't supposed to be sitting at the bar. And I guess the thought process, if I have to guess, I think the thought process is that you got the bartender working in this area and you don't want a bunch of people all breathing on the bartender. I think, I don't know, of course, when they make these orders, they don't bother to do the kind of thing real leaders would do in these situations and justify their actions. They don't point to studies and data and say, this is what we're seeing. This is what the goal we're hoping to see. This is why we're doing it. Because, of course, that would mean that we can hold you accountable to your words and to your actions, and they don't want to see that. So instead, what you have going on is these local health departments saying, hey, you can't put a bar, people can't be sitting at the bar, which that's been pretty common this whole time. Like I said, it's a little strange, it's a little weird, but I guess I can see the thought process. It'd be nice for them to come right out and say it. And by see the thought process, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying I see your thought process. Well, so what these bars have been doing, and you'll see this at Drake's, at anywhere around here, is they'll take their high top tables because they now got to also space out their tables, keep in mind. So they'll go ahead and put them right next to the bar and then sit people at those tables. So you can't, the bar will be here, but I'm sitting at a table here. Keeping people spaced out and pushed away. Well, I guess supposedly the Lexington Health Department has decided to tack on the new regulation saying you got to be 3 feet back from the bar with the tables. So you can't jut the tables up. You got to be 3 feet back. And I'm telling you, as somebody who's been watching these, I don't know that I have seen that change in a single order. What this is I believe an internal decision-making process. And to give you an example of some of the ones we've seen for us, so one of the things we saw, for example, is dealing with masks was so if a person can't wear a mask, ADA says if they say they have a medical exemption, you can't question them on that. You just have to say, hey, I see you're not wearing a mask. You need to put one on. They say, I've got a medical exemption, and then you're supposed to just go about your life. And knowing that, people started taking advantage of that. Well, the health department came up with a regulation here in Kentucky saying that, well, if you offer like curbside, for an example, that's a reasonable accommodation. So, for the ADA law says as long as you make a reasonable accommodation. Well, not that it was detailed in any of the executive orders. It was just an internal decision that if a restaurant or a coffee shop like us offers a curbside, then that's a reasonable accommodation. So if somebody doesn't come in wearing a mask, they have to be kicked back out because that's a reasonable accommodation. Now, one person might say, such as me, I would say that as a local coffee shop, I am not just offering a coffee, I'm also offering a community place, a place to work. So it is not a reasonable accommodation for me to require you to do curbside because you can't wear a mask, because I don't just offer coffee, I'm offering an environment, I'm offering something different. That would be, but their thought process is that that's the case. So when they came in, they cited us for a mask mandate. We pointed to that. We said, well, listen, these individuals, they told us they have a medical exemption. So, we're letting them in there. And they said, well, you offer curbside to go. That is your reasonable accommodation. We said, where is the law? Where is the statute? Where is it in the mandate that is the case? And their response is that, well, here's an email. They literally showed us an internal health department email detailing the policy they're saying to me. And it's from, I don't know, let's say Karen at the health department. I was like, I don't know, no Karen. I don't remember Karen being elected to get to make laws and make the rules here. So an internal email is not the same thing as a statute. But that doesn't mean the health department hasn't decided to go ahead and make up their own rules as they go. And you'll see this all the time. You'll see them interpreting this. And, you saw this even before this. You could see this a lot of times, like police, for an example, where they don't really know all the laws, especially as it gets real deep down into it. They know a guy or some other officer told them one thing and then tells them another thing. And so in turn, then they go ahead and they just think, hey, this is the rules, right? Well, you have the same thing going on at the health department. They've now decided here in Lexington, I guess, that you can't sit at a bar at a high top table. The high top table has to be 3 feet back. So I'm talking to this bar manager, and the bar manager's like, Andrew, I am just tired of having to reorganize this bar and bar tables constantly. Because, I put them here and I space them out there. And now I'm told I got to be back here. So though he increases the capacity, which, once again, I wasn't ever asking him permission for my capacity, but I understand other people are not the same individuals as us. They're not quite willing to push back. They're not quite willing to give the proverbial middle finger to the government quite the same way we are. So I don't expect them to necessarily do the same things we're doing. It's unreasonable of me to expect every business owner to do it. If they want to lose their business and not fight for it, that is their prerogative, I guess. You don't want to fight for a business, you just want to lose it. That's okay. That's what you can do. If you think you can hold on to your business and you don't need to necessarily fight for it, I understand why you wouldn't be pushing back too much if you think you're going to hold on to it. And so what they do is they come in here and they say, okay, you can have a 60% capacity, but you still got to be 6 feet apart, and we're going to enforce that. And now you got to be 3 feet back from the bar. And now you have a 60% capacity you got to worry about. And oh, by the way, if I get up to use the bathroom, I have to wear a mask. And if I catch a person in here not wearing a mask, I'm going to cite you for it. Now, yes, you can fight back on them. And any business owner out there, you get a mask citation, call me up. I will tell you how to get rid of that. We've had 3 citations, all dismissed. It is not hard. It is not difficult to get rid of them. It is a very hard thing to enforce by the health departments and these licensures. It is because of the medical exemption ruling. And quite literally, if you're real worried about it and you're not doing the HB1, SB1 thing that I'm going to talk about here in a bit, like we are, just post on your door, we require a mask. If you're not wearing one, we're going to assume you have a medical exemption. That's what we had on our door. That was our defense against the health department. You can do the same thing. And so anybody gets citation, let us know. But they come in and they're just taking on these small businesses. Meanwhile, you've got Walmarts and all these big box retailers. You could cite a Walmart. So you're supposed to get your license taken away after, I think, 5 citations for a mask mandate. You can go to Walmart. They could write a citation every other hour. Okay, these people, nobody's wearing a mask in Walmart, or there's very few. There's a lot of people not, and they're just not enforcing it there. No, they're going after these small businesses and these individual owners, and they're taking advantage of them. And when these individual owners go, come on, man, I'm doing the best I can, right? They're not like me who's looking for a fight. They're out there, maybe even provoking them, trying to provoke them to a degree into a fight. They're just trying to exist and stay under the radar and do what they need to do. They don't want to get their licenses taken away. And the health departments come in and they give them this hard time. And the health department's excuse every single time is, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, and your job can also be to walk away. Let's stop pretending for 5 seconds just doing your job is a forgivable excuse for doing things you know is wrong and you disagree with. Because when a person says, man, you're giving me a hard time, look, man, I'm just doing my job, you're making it clear that you cannot justify what you're doing. You know you cannot win in this argument about it because you know what you're doing is ridiculous, and the best thing you can say is, I'm just doing my job. Well, you can also just not do your job. You can also, when Karen walked in from the health department to tell us we couldn't have people sitting inside, she could have walked in, said, hey, you can't have people in here, but I'm going to turn around and walk away, and hopefully the next day you don't have people in here, or in 2-3 days you don't have people in here, and I'm going to turn around, I'm going to walk away. And it's like, you could just do that, but you're not doing that. Instead, you're deciding to stand there to enforce it, to attack people for their income. You're trying to get these small businesses and giving them a hard time, making them feel like they got to go get a lawyer in order to fight back, or just submit to whatever it is you want to do. And you're taking really advantage of them, and you should feel terrible for what you're doing. You're not just doing your job because you're going to also just not do your job. That's it. And I'm sorry, but this is not an acceptable excuse anymore. And at some point, they have to realize why they're doing it. And this is why they're doing it. Same reason why the governor won't set a goalpost. The governor's came out and said, I will not set a goalpost. And he came with some reasoning about variants or worried about this and Band-Aids or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The reason why he doesn't want to set a goalpost, the reason why they've never wanted to set a goalpost is because these people like the feeling of power. Dr. Stack, Dr. Fauci. Did anybody know their name before this? I mean, before a year ago, right? We all know Dr. Stack, the doctor advising the governor on his choices here in Kentucky. We all know Dr. Fauci's name, of course. Did anybody know who any of these people were other than over the last year? No, nobody knew who they were, right? They have become important, powerful, just like the health department inspectors feel they've become important and powerful because it's an infectious disease time and we now need them, and they're the experts and they're getting called in because there's an emergency situation, and they feel really important about it and they feel really good about it, and there is no incentive for them to say the emergency's over, because the minute they say the emergency's over, it's the minute they are not special, they are not important anymore, they are not needed, right? For once, Dr. Fauci's worked for the government for like ever, as far as I know. That's what I'm being told. I haven't done a lot of research on him, but I know he's worked there for a little while. And he's probably been, and by his own admittance, he's been ignored by the government for a very long time. Now suddenly everybody's listening to him. So suddenly if he says jump, people are saying how high. Why would he want to let that go? Why would he want to let that go? And am I sitting there saying he's looking at himself in a mirror, saying to himself, I'm important, I'm going to take him down? I don't think he is actually saying that. He's justifying his actions in his mind by saying, well, they don't understand. There could be a variant, and that could take people down. And that's a real concern because he's used to being the chicken little, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, because all these infectious disease people for years and years and years and years, every single disease is going to be the end all be all. It's going to destroy everything. It's going to wipe out the population. Finally, they have one that people seem to care about, And now people are listening to him. They're not going to let that go. They're not going to. You think they're going to advise away their own power? No, they're not going to advise away their own power. You think they're going to advise the governor or advise whoever the president is? And I'm not saying that Joe Biden's not the president. What I'm saying is who knows who's pulling those strings, okay? He is clearly not all there. Somebody else is cutting off his mics and video cameras and everything else. I don't think anybody thinks for 1 second Joe Biden's the one who's actually calling the shots. Whoever it is. Do you think Dr. Fauci and Dr. Sachs are going to turn to them saying, okay, now you can stop listening to me? No, they're not going to say that. They want to keep their power going. And in the same way, the people listening to him, the governor, the president, right? It's in their best interest for this to keep going. It doesn't have to be a giant conspiracy. It's quite literally quite simple. If there's not an emergency anymore, Governor Beshear doesn't need to solve a problem. If there's not an emergency anymore, Biden doesn't need to solve a problem. If there's not an emergency anymore, we don't need the governor to be our savior, and instead it's back to normal. And also, all of a sudden, now you've got all the negatives of the issues of the unemployment office and everything else going on, and that becomes to the forefront, and he doesn't get his daily propaganda hour. He doesn't get to keep going out and saying those things. So what ends up happening is he has a vested interest himself, and he does, in keeping it going so he can keep his emergency powers. He has a vested interest in it, right? Everybody feels super important when they're solving a problem. And so he wants to keep it going. So no, the governor won't set a goalpost. No, these health departments won't stop attacking these small businesses. And they're not going to, because it makes them feel special. And we have to demand they stop. And we do this by pushing back. We do this by fighting. We do this by refusing to comply. We do this by when we see a business that's fighting, we support it. We do this by when we see somebody else in our community who's pushing back and needs help, we support them. We do this by getting involved. We do this by calling about bills. We do this by calling the governor's office. We just do this. And if the governor thinks this fight is far from over, he's wrong. Not only is there a new suit being filed by other restaurants, but as well, there are a lot of things going on. For an example, Chris Weiss looks like he may be or is possibly, I believe, suing the governor as an individual for his lost wages, for the damages he did when he illegally was shutting down a parochial Christian schools, the religious schools, which he wasn't allowed to be doing. For those 7 days he shut them down, and he was going against Cuomo v. Diocese there out of the Supreme Court for those 7 days. It looks like, or Toledo Health Department v. Montalvo Christian Academy, I believe. Anyways, he was going against a court ruling. And if that's the case, and he's looking at getting personally sued now. I mean, this governor has another lawsuit coming down, too, as well, we're going to talk about in a second. I think he might be setting the record for the most sued governor in Kentucky history. I think he might be. Because I got a feeling, too, there's going to be even more lawsuits coming down the pipe, just based on the information I'm being given. And, some of these are not going to look very good for him. I will say that. Of course, big news here, too, as well. The unemployment director for about 5 months there, has, unfortunately, it appears, killed himself. I hear you guys on the conspiracy. Let's hold our judgment. This man had a family. Let's not start saying our conspiracies right off the bat. Let's see what happens there. Let's let some of the information come out. The individual was not apparently very good, supposedly, at the unemployment. He could be a scapegoat here. I guess he worked on the campaign and helped a lot, and so they kind of gave him a job, and it just kind of turns out maybe he was bad at that job. Either way, it looks bad on the governor. He does, because either A, you hired the wrong guy for political reasons, and you needed to fire him. You can't really blame the unemployment problems on him like we saw. But he has killed himself at 39. We'll see what comes of that. Some action items for you guys. We got SB 8. That's the not the anti-vax bill, but the anti-mandated vaccine bill. And I got to tell you this much too. If you're the kind of person that wants another person to stick a a needle in their arm and inject themselves with a medicine because it makes you feel better because of your concern and your worry or poison or whatever you want to call whatever they're putting in them. If you are the kind of person that wants to force somebody else to take a vaccine, force them. Use government force to force a person to take a vaccine, or even social force in the sense of what we're going to be seeing here probably is some of these businesses and places requiring you to have a vaccine to do business with them, basically making it to where if you won't go get the vaccine, you are, a black sheep of society. You are exiled from society possibly. I know there's some apps, some health passport apps coming out to where because there's HIPAA laws and it kind of gets weird, but where a company like, let's say Ticketmaster can say to come to this, you need to have take your temperature, have a vaccine, and test negative for COVID, whatever they could say. They could say whatever they wanted to. And then you have this health passport that you upload your medical information into or your vaccine card or whatever, and you show that to and so when you go to show up to buy a ticket or whatever, you scan it, you show your ID, and then without giving them your medical history, it will go through and looks through the records you submitted to see if you qualify for their requirements. And, that's some dangerous things, right? Social, political pressure to be taking chemicals into your body is a big problem. I mean, I think we do have, much like any other drug, there shouldn't be social pressure necessarily to take anything if you don't want to. So I think SB 8 is important for that reason. Also, HB 360, once again, this is very important. We had the legislators complaining, calling up, talking to people, wondering, what do we do? What do we do? Oh my gosh, we're realizing we've got, 4 days left of veto-proof time. And if we don't pass something else, I'm worried we're not going to do anything. And this governor, oh my gosh, the courts, what are we to do? Guys, you can pass some more bills. Let's pass some bills, right? Let's pass HB 360. Remove his ability to take away licenses. Let's get that done. Stop crying about you wanting to do something and getting stopped by the great and these court systems and everything else. Stop crying about that, and instead let's do something. Let's pass HB 360. Let's pass SB 8. Let's get some things done, because at the end of the day, I don't care if you tried and failed. I didn't elect you to try. I elected you to do. You were elected to do things, and what you were elected to do is to rein in this governor, and if you failed to do that, you will pay the price. Starting with the 4 on the impeachment committee. Real quick plug. Don't forget to be emailing and calling them. We're going to email and call them. We're going to email and call them for the next 2 years. Why? I'm petty. I'm so petty. You should be petty too. You should hold it. It's not even pettiness. Every single wrong thing Beshear does from here on out is those 4. Suzanne Miles, Ed Massey, Jason Nemes, and Kim King. Those 4. It is their fault from here on out. Anything wrong Beshear does, it is their fault. Every time he does something wrong, we need to be holding them accountable for it. We need to be emailing them saying, hi, there's something else you did wrong today, right? Another person not getting their unemployment check. Look what you guys did, because you failed to act when your state called upon you to do so. You failed. And if you're going to fail to rein them in completely too as well, that just adds to it. Additionally, we have a lawsuit being filed by a company, I guess, Goodwood Brewing. Funny enough, I actually went to their restaurant, not today. I went like 4 weeks ago. They just opened up one over at Lexington Green area, over, where Mellow Mushroom was, over by Lexington Green area is where it's at, by the mall there in Lexington. And they opened up Goodwood Brewing there, and it's not bad food. It's pretty good. It was interesting. They had a lunch menu. The beer was okay. Pretty good there. Nothing to complain about. Cool establishment, cool feel to it. I will say that. It did not strike me as a fighter. I'm gonna be honest with you. We went in there, and they didn't really strike me as necessarily. They had their hand sanitizer and boxed the masks out and everything else. They didn't strike me as a fighter for it. But hey, you know what? Just because you don't think the governor should be still writing mandates doesn't mean you're not supportive of wearing masks or other things. It's not one or the other. You can be fighting government overreach and mandates while you yourself may be agreeing with the mandates. That's one thing. Don't get stuck in this false dichotomy of thinking just because a business disagrees with the mandates or the governor being able to make them after these laws have been passed doesn't mean they don't support, health. These public health policies that they agree with. It just means that they think the governor should be doing the right thing. And so what their lawsuit is what I've been talking about. They went offensive. I've been talking about doing it in a defensive way with the SB 8, SB 1, and HB1, SB1, SB2, and HB1, bills. And those bills are the bills that Judge Shepard has held up in court with the lawsuit. What they're alleging is that the governor can't make mandates anymore. They're saying the exact thing I've been saying. I've been, like I said, saying we should be doing it defensively. And what I mean by that is they're saying that the weird restraining order that the governor has on the legislator does not have any bearing on what he should be doing, right? So once again, as the law normally passes, he does something wrong, or if he's not enforcing it or enforcing a law, so legislator passes a law, then the executive branch, which is the governor, either enforces or doesn't enforce it, and then if they don't enforce it, they can be sued into enforcing it, or if they do enforce it, and at the time when they enforce it, then that is ruled unconstitutional. In this case, what should happen is in a way happening. I personally believe they would have had a better shot of doing it defensively. And what I mean by that is waiting until a governor makes a mandate and then the health department or somebody tries to act on that mandate to come after you and then defending yourself. But what they're doing is offensively saying, okay, these laws passed. The governor shouldn't be making these rules, these mandates, these things anymore. He doesn't have the ability to because of SB 1 and 2 and HB 1. And that has no bearing on what's going on at the restaurant because they're not a named party. And so they are offensively suing the governor to stop doing it. This is the legal theory we've been saying, except we've been saying to do it defensively. We'll see what happens with it. I'm kind of interested to see how it goes offensively. I'm interested to see how this lawsuit goes where they're actively trying to stop the governor from making mandates versus waiting for them to come after them and then defending it. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer. It's hard for me to explain some of these things because I'm not a lawyer. But basically, there's an argument to be made that if you're defending yourself in court against overreach, that's a better call than going after them. Because if you go after them, a judge is more likely, because what's the negative that happens if you say, well, no, I think it does have bearing? Well, because remember, judges are just people. They're more likely to maybe look at that and say, well, we'll wait to see what happens with the Shepard case. I don't want to get involved. Compared to if he's coming after you about it, they don't have that luxury of being able to push off the case, ignore the case, depend the case on something else. Instead, you're able to say no because something is actively being done to me now. Somebody's trying to take away my license. That creates then the case law where other people can't have their license taken away. That would be the suggestion. That was my kind of suggestion about it. However, the active attack is also something good, interesting. It is worth supporting them. Go support Goodwood, buy their beer, drink some beer. Go check them out. Go to their place, right? And I think it is interesting to see kind of what happens there. And like I said, this governor might be the most sued governor I've seen. So that lawsuit there by Goodwood, SB1, SB2, and HB1 fighting on the same legal theories we've been talking about. In national news, we have Trump pushing back on the GOP. We've got two things occurring. One, Trump putting out a statement saying, stop, same thing we've been saying. Stop giving to the Republican Party. Don't give to the party. He's saying instead give to my PAC. He's saying the Republican Party is corrupt. They're not standing on what they stand on. They're cronies. Their cronyism they involve in. It's bad. They need to be held accountable to the platform they stand on. The same stuff we're saying, same thing I fight for. So I agree with that statement. I do agree you shouldn't be giving to the party. You should be giving to candidates. I believe we do need to hold the party accountable. I agree 100% with what Trump is saying there. We also have Trump sending a cease and desist to the GOP saying you can't use his image or likeness anymore. And the GOP saying, no, we can do that. Now, Am I saying that means necessarily Trump's at war with the GOP in that way? I don't know. Trump's a marketing guy, right? So as a marketing guy, it's a Trump name. He loves his name, Trump, up on the buildings, right, and everything else. He's a marketing guy. He's a business guy, and and he's a brand, right? Trump is a brand too, as well. Okay, we all know this. You're fired, everything else, right? The hair, right? He's a brand. And as a brand, you need to protect that brand. And so this could maybe not be him saying, hey, I'm going to war with the GOP in that sense. Now, obviously, the statement he made of saying don't donate to the Republican Party, instead donate to my PAC that wants to fix the Republican Party. One could say that is maybe a little more shot across the bow, but I would say the cease and desist is more about his marketing brand and protecting that personally than it is necessarily about wanting to go head-to-head with the GOP. That being stated, I believe he's seeing the same thing we're all seeing, right? The party is disconnected from what's going on the ground. The base, the group, everybody involved, right? There's a lot of questions. There's questions about the election integrity. There's still questions about supporting Trump. We saw what the Republicans were doing as far as not supporting Trump goes, and that's creating a lot of issues amongst the base. You also have issues of the party as a whole. Take for Kentucky, for example, not listening to what the voters and the party want them to do. The voters and party want them to impeach Beshear. They want to hold him accountable. They did not listen. They did not do what they said they were going to do. They have yet to rein him in. So in that same way, that the same stuff we're seeing here in Kentucky, they're seeing nationally, and that's what Trump is pushing back against. And I think the GOP has a big decision to make. Are you going to keep going down this path of being the cronyism, big business type party, or are you going to be the party of the Constitution you claim to be? Are you going to stand up for people's rights? Because you do have a problem, GOP. If you want to unite your party and you don't want to see a literal, not actual civil war with guns and stuff, but a civil war within the party of there being a takeover, you need to start listening. This us versus them stuff doesn't work anymore. Not when you do the same things the Democrats do, right? Or a version of the same things. You've got to stand by your words there, and you haven't been doing it, and that's what you're losing people on. That's what Trump is attacking the GOP on. So it's interesting to see that occur, and I'm real interested to see how that turns out. I'm interested to see how his PAC's doing. I think that's a worthwhile thing too. I think it's very worthwhile for people to don't leave the party. I hear people in the third party stuff. I get you. I hear you. I would say, look at who the Libertarian Party just elected for their state chair on that subject. To not to point out necessarily anything negative per se there, just to point out that all parties are the same, and not all parties are the same in the sense that they're the same. They don't all have the same platform, but they're all same in the same way that people don't stand by the words they say. Parties don't stand by their platforms. Parties will do things that go against their principles if it's better in their mind for the party. And so because of that, you need to look at people. We need to be electing people, not parties. That being stated, you should look at the party they're running for in the platform, right? I personally agree with the GOP platform. And if you agree with the platform, then stay in the party and vote in the primaries for people who align with your views. Vote your conscience in the sense of voting in the primary. And then when you get to the general, vote your conscience again. Don't vote for somebody you don't want to vote for. Vote for a person you honestly support. And if that's nobody in that particular election, then vote for nobody. They don't have to get your vote every time, right? Just because they got an R next to their name doesn't mean they get your vote. Hold people accountable for what they're doing. That being stated, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me today. Like I said, SB8, HB360. We need to be making calls, emails to support that. Support Goodwood out there fighting a fight. This ain't over. Push back against the health departments. Any restaurants, any bars, anybody having issues with mask citations, mandates, anything like that, call us, message us. Let us help you out. We know what to do to get those gone. We've successfully fought them off. I mean, anybody who's been in Brood can tell you we kind of do what we want to a degree for sure. And they leave us alone because, well, quite frankly, they they're a bully, right? They're not going to pick on the kid that's going to fight back. They're going to go pick on the people they think they still can. Well, if everybody starts fighting back, they can't keep going. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I appreciate your time. Share it out. Come to Brood, drink our coffee, like our page, share our pages, check out our YouTube channel, everything else. Thank you guys so much.